Hello and welcome to the North Metro SBDC programming.
Hello, everyone. Welcome and Happy New Year 2025. My name is Raul Lopez, and I am the Assistant Director for the North Metro SBDC. And just want to say thank you for showing up here to get some great information. I'm really looking forward to Zvi's talk. It's just such a great way to start the year and thinking about the big picture. If you already have a business in place, it's how do I re-look at my business in a way that's fresh, new, and thinking about it in a way that's going to take you to proficiency, to higher levels of efficiency and whatnot. So I won't get too deep into that part of it. Uh, but ultimately, it's like, what is the end goal? And what do you really want to accomplish with this business? How do you create a business that serves you? So, I see some familiar faces. Hi, Carol. Hi, Kathleen. Real quick, if you could just do me a favor in the chat, drop four things for me. Number one, your first, last name. Two, the name of your business and the type of business you have. If you don't have a business, just put you don't have a business yet. Three, the city and zip of your business. If you don't have a business yet, just put your city of residence. And then number four, any questions, curiosities you have about the topic today, right off the bat here. Now, any moment you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll get to it as quickly as possible. Zvi's really good at that, taking questions. If it's easier for you to just raise your hand with the emoji, you can do that too. And even unmute yourself and ask a question. We're happy to hear from you. We love to see your faces and hear your voices. So, in any case, I will turn it over to Zvi and let him take over. Please put those four things. I'll put that in the chat as well so that you have a reminder of that. So Zvi, go ahead and take over, my man.
All right, thank you, Raul, and I sincerely appreciate everyone who joined today. There's a lot of information here. I hope it's valuable to you. Right off the bat, just like Raul said, I'm going to echo that. I kind of want to talk about why you should always think about selling your business, even if you're not currently planning to sell or if you have a brand new business. I think with operating with the sale ultimately in mind will keep you clean, efficient, and thinking about the value of the business overall. And so, do we have the first slide up there?
I will get that up right now.
Okay, no problem. I just want to again thank everyone for being here. Um, you're here today. You want to learn what it might take to successfully sell your business, and and I do appreciate you coming here. Some of you might have been thinking, okay, maybe he's going to talk about the accounting or potentially the broker, um, or lawyers that might be involved. But actually, those people are certainly important in packaging up the business. And we can move to the next slide. Yeah, next slide. And if you take a look here, I've outlined some of the basic points of each. Brokers are, of course, good at creating the deal. Lawyers, of course, make sure that the contracts are sensible and make sense for both parties and are legally viable. Accountants, of course, polish up the books and make sure it looks as attractive as possible, showing off revenue and profit and things like that. Next slide. Again, this is the kinds of things that that sales team might do is showing off your operational strengths, showing off the documentation that you might have, all of the operational processes that have been documented, showing off how efficient and reliable things might be. Financial health, of course, showing the numbers, and emphasizing the independence. How much what we're talking about here is how much dependency does it have on key. If that's reduced in terms of being able to run your business with fewer and fewer key people, then it's actually more attractive. So let's go on to the next slide here. And I hope you learned, that if you hope you see that I'm skimming over the team here just enough, just to make the point that polishing the veneer is actually not enough. Um, right off the bat, we have potentially a misleading impression here of the business's true value because we've done so much work to make it shine through the numbers and through kind of a little bit of polish. And the actual genuine business value that I'd love to be talking about here is the underlying operations that are running efficiently, kink-free, that are reliable, as automated as possible. And in that way, we really do have an asset that's worth showing off that will command a premium value. Next slide. The best case scenario, the thing where the holy grail is having a business that runs on its own as much as possible. I think that's the dream. Does everyone agree here? Raise a hand if you really do want to. I mean, if you really think about it, you can't hand over the keys to a buyer of your business unless things mainly operate on their own. No one wants to buy a business that is a house of cards that could collapse as soon as the owner is gone. And so, next slide. What we're really talking about here is um, is combining a few disciplines at the right intervals. It's really like the fitness of your business when you think about daily, weekly, and monthly um, habits that you might introduce. And I'm going to tell you that you cannot sell a business unless it's properly documented. Documenting all of the workflows in the businesses, all of the roles and responsibilities, and if it's not documented, you are basically eliminating some of the most serious buyers. And besides documentation, nowadays there's an amazing set of tools like Miro and even Flowable, which is a pretty advanced tool, where you can actually act out these scenarios and create these workflows that are highly complex that represent your business logic. I don't want to go too far into it, but you can see where here it's the roots of creating a turnkey system where you can rely on some of the most advanced automation, which has become really commoditized these days. It doesn't cost as much as you think. And the best case scenario is you have a great team that's helping you do the math on which aspects of your workflow are worth working on and doing an ROI analysis beforehand. So it's very clear that whatever you spend is worth working on. And if you break these down to really high impact, low effort items that might exist and start building that relationship with a vendor, you will see benefits in spades because the small amount of work that you're doing to improve one of the processes, if that process goes on over and over, that's a tremendous amount of savings. My company, OpLogic, full disclosure, is we do documentation and automation, Six Sigma project management with some lean software architecture. And for a warehouse out in California, we took an hour-long process that we identified as being a really good candidate for automation. And we trimmed that process down to about an hour. We completely rebuilt the flow, fewer people working there. And in the end, they are saving about $1,500 a day on that one process. And so I'm just inviting you to think about today, what can I do to remove myself from the process and maybe even take Fridays off? Wouldn't that be something? And dig in for a second and think to yourself, what would it take for me to make money on Friday and not have to be there? And that's kind of what the invitation to you today. What would the business look like if it started maintaining itself in some ways? What are the things you'd love to be able to show off if you did have a potential buyer? If anyone wants to jump in, I'd love to hear a story if you've tried to sell your business, or even if you want to just say, like, here's what my business would look like if I was able to trim out some of the things that I know are repetitive tasks and things like that that I could potentially automate.
I'm gonna volunteer,
Oh,
Carol.
sure.
Carol, can you share a little bit about your business and maybe one or two things that would be great to offload?
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Well, I'm an insurance agent. I do insurance for auto, home businesses as well here in Westminster, Colorado. So basically, I think it's been 2 years now since I opened the agency. And this is probably the third or the fourth time, I guess, that I'm taking a training through this wonderful organization. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Carolina, for sharing.
Of course.
You can see here that we're sort of angling towards understanding that polish and veneer are just not good enough if you're trying to eventually sell your business. So what we're talking about is bottom line inefficiencies where you know where the problems are, you know that there are always going to be urgent things that come up in your business. And in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People book, they talk about the urgency versus important matrix. And important items always get the shaft when it comes to urgent items. And so when do you have time to work on those important things? And so I argue that you need to focus on the processes and not the people. The people will follow the policies that you create. And so in doing so, you'll ultimately be able to say, I do have an owner's manual. It does have all of the things that go on that create the profit, create revenue for this company. And so when it is time, I can hand it over confidently and say, this is a well-packaged product. The wheels are not going to fall off next week. And, and potentially the person who sees a well-maintained machine will see the value and pay the premium for it. And I'm open. If anyone else wants to jump in, of course, I want to leave room for that.
Um, Hi, this is Heidi Ordonez. And
Oh,
last year, by the end of last year, would like to share, there was a construction company. They have been in business for over 20 years. Very solid, stable company. And the owner, so he had planned to pass it to his kids. However, the kids didn't want to do anything with the company. So instead of selling as a business, he decided to yes, dissolve the company and yes, start selling all the equipment and everything like separately. And that's where, I started thinking, I was like, that is not the right thing to do. I mean, he could have 20 years of experience, 20 years in the business, it should
just
have
to
worth
have it.
something. So I was like, that could have been sold for millions instead of just dissolving it and just selling, little all the equipment here and there, because he already had his customers, he has built those relationships, and I think those have been worth something. My husband and I, we own a landscaping business. We've been in business for about 7 years, and it's something that I start thinking. I was like, okay, we have to create a business that if at any time point we are thinking about selling, so it's better to sell it than dissolve.
Yeah, that's an excellent example. Now with the baby boomer generation kind of aging out, and there will be lots of businesses that will ultimately be for sale, and a lot of businesses that will not be able to be sold because there just won't be room in the market for it. And so I think I applaud you actually for looking for these kinds of opportunities. I bet the next time you see something like that, you're not going to let it slip through your hands because that capital investment pays for itself just with the brand itself and the customer list that already exists. And so that's an excellent opportunity. And what it reminds me of is the fact that there was some really good tribal knowledge where there are a few key people there had all the information and knew exactly how to make money in the business. But here's the thing, when they ran out of, they knew what they knew and they didn't know what they didn't know. And so sometimes it takes a consultant's perspective or an outside perspective to come in and say, look, there's some very obvious inefficiencies here that will help you not leave money on the table. You're needlessly wasting a lot of your effort if you're going to leave this money on the table. And so sometimes, it requires the right tools or systems that can keep up with changes that you might have. But sometimes it's just analyzing the bottom line for flows and interruptions in the way you work, so that you're not, just to be able to document it itself, you'll be able to see the connections you wouldn't have been able to make before. And if you ever see a business like that, you can also trust that what you bring to it in a new perspective will add lots. Being able to just see a business as it already runs, and you with fresh pair of eyes come in and say, look, I see operations going like this. It's a worthy investment, even just as is with the current revenue. But with a little bit of investment of time, potentially money, you can actually look at what the bottom line issues, actually talk to the employees, do these interviews, assess the impact of everyone's work and what the workflows are supposed to be able to do and how they're actually behaving. And if you do take that time to be detailed every day, then you will have a better, a more fit business. And that's what I'm kind of encouraging right here. This is for people who are diligent, who think objectively about their business, and for people who don't want to work in their business, but would rather work on the processes of their business and uh, let the operations flow from the workflows that you design. I think that there's a famous example, of course, of McDonald's breaking down their processes so minutely that anyone could just jump on board, and they are shown a few pieces, a single one or two workflows at a time of process that they can jump through. And here's what you do, 1, 2, 3. And as they learn more of the system, they have more responsibility. And so in this case, it's a combination of staying fit by constantly looking at habits that can be formed around intervals, daily, weekly, monthly kind of activities. And I do have some documents here if anyone wants a quick impact, um, things you could do in the next 48 hours that ultimately will improve these things. But what we do as a company, we look for interruptions in flow. And maybe I'll give you some ideas, and maybe you'll be able to think of some in your business. But one of the most severe ones that we see are bottlenecks in decision making. Employees constantly waiting for approvals or direction before moving to the next step. That one really crushes the flow and momentum. Any kind of repetitive manual tasks. We had a back office of a warehouse, and there was a young lady who was really smart, and she was spending 2.5 hours a day punching the same information into 4 separate systems. So we built her a screen where she enters it once and then she hits a button to send it off to each other service. We trimmed 2 hours just like that. This is a very smart young lady who's working in the office and basically runs a lot of other admins. And it's like she was able to say, I know where the flow interruptions are. Here's what's really blocking me. And if you do take that time yourself, you don't have to pay a fancy consultant for this. You just have to pay attention to yourself. Like, what am I doing day in and day out? And what am I doing where I'm just keeping busy because I'm used to it? That'll keep you in the business. If you're really trying to be objective and step out of it, then you have to constantly be thinking, what am I doing and how could this not be on me? We've talked about dependency on key people. We've talked about communication breakdowns a little bit, but really, at the end of the day, you should be looking very closely at inconsistent customer experiences. When you talk to your clients or customers as a follow-up to your process, it should be really recognizable where there might have been gaps in the communications with that customer during the experience. And so you might look to say, I need to know through this process, I need to know that I have a clear process. So when I'm not there, everyone has the exact direction about how to create a good customer experience and keep that consistency going, because the consistency to you as an owner means repeat business and of course referrals. And those are things that I'm talking about when I say not leaving money on the table, being able to work on the important things and build your process so that things like referrals are coming in um, every time that you do successful work. Sorry for the now, I don't know if you are now thinking about your own business, but think about those interruptions and inefficiencies. Feel free to post something there in the chat if you want to talk about one. But really, again, think about what are you being pulled into that could be solved without you? What repetitive tasks are slowing things down? And is there a lack of clarity, especially when you're not around? One other tremendous aspect is just assessing your existing operations. When we talk about writing things down, literally with pen and paper, what are all the moving parts? What are the people? What tools exist? What systems? Write down the workflows within which the people are moving through and performing their tasks. How do the key processes lead to revenue? And then really just write down those bottlenecks that you find. I'm going to show you a tool. Well, I don't know if I could do it now. I would love for you to know about this tool regardless. So maybe do your own research, but there is a tool called Flowable that we use. I'll put it there in the chat. It's flowable.com. And it's a wonderful way to run through workflows where you something occurs. Maybe someone emails or sends in a request through a form on your site, and then from there, all the action starts kicking off. It fires off to your CRM and it flags them as being a new prospect. Excuse me. Maybe it introduces to them to an email sequence. And by the way, email sequences are an amazing way to help people understand your product or business. So in terms of the smallest automation you could possibly do, think about going on to MailerLite or MailChimp and really creating one of those kind of campaigns that that an introduction campaign. If someone jumps onto your subscribes for the first time, they might get a 3 or 7 email sequence over the next few weeks that help them just more deeply understand what it is you do and how you help. Um, and you know what? Raul, I do have a document here, like I said, of suggestions, things that you can do in the um, uh, next 24 to 48 hours for your business. And let me just put that link in here. Yeah. Yeah. So again, when we're looking at our operations, we want to you want to start with the big picture. What is the primary product or service? What are the main steps involved in delivering your product or service to the customer? Really break it down. What are the tasks that happen? Who's responsible? And more importantly, not who, but what is their role? How would you describe the ideal person to do that work? Um, in simple terms, I'm a computer guy, so I'm going to talk about inputs and outputs, but the inputs are really like what resources, what time and effort is needed to keep things going, and just be honest with yourself. And then what results do those efforts produce? You have to start drawing those lines. It has to be obvious the impact that's created by the efforts put in. And if you could draw those lines, you can actually map it out. And when you're selling your business, you'll have much more direct data to prove the case. And then, of course, when you are working on your business and you're looking at it from a bird's eye view, you'll notice new connections. How do things work right now? How could it work? What is the total impact? And then you're doing the best version of your job as a business owner, which is to see things at a high level and make those connections. Um, yeah, like I said, My company is OpLogic. We use tools like Flowable as part of a Six Sigma project management discipline. The other side of the business is lean software architecture, where we could take these workflows that we define with you and have them not just documented, but they're almost live workflows that you can actually run, and then translate that over to a custom system. We use open source software. Specifically, we use a framework of several frameworks, but one in particular called Drupal. Drupal has been adopted by the US government and Australian government, other governments to run most of their applications. And, you know, there's why use custom software? I'm a believer that there are times when custom software makes sense. If you're paying a lot in licensing fees, some companies are using I just heard from a carpet company that their ERP system costs about $50,000 a year. And that's a little shocking just because they said they don't even really use but 20 or 30% of the features of that software. So I would write those kinds of things down. Say, what's costing me money right now? What's already like problematic that I could see? And how can this be transferred over? That same $50,000 or much less, maybe even less than half, can be spent building the right workflow for you once and save you all those licensing fees from then on. Open source software is definitely a good way to go if you want to build extensible and have a system that grows with you over time that's fully defined by you. It's not always the answer, but often can be a great way to centralize all of your operations. And yeah, and so if you're looking at the software that you currently are using, write all that down. Are the costs exorbitant? Is it purpose built for you? If so, that is amazing that you found a piece of software that really does match your business very well. If you're not using 20 or 30% of it, keep that in mind. And if integration is an issue and you're using several different pieces of software to sort of string together your communications, you might try to just uh, think about zooming out and figure out what a plan of how you want to actually execute and what might work well. And then you can add that right into your own system, bypassing all these different tools that might be doing the job right now. So yeah, we can get as complicated as you want. If anyone has questions on open source or custom software, please let me know. I don't want to exhaust the topic here, but some of you are bound to restrictions of your company or policies that you have to follow. And we do work with the government. We're very familiar with those kinds of restrictions. Yeah, if anyone wants any real world examples, I'd love to share. But ultimately, that is a lot of what I wanted to share today. And the rest of it, I hope will be just conversational. And let me know where you're at. Definitely tell me about your business and what's working for you.
So why don't we get everyone that has a business currently, just drop in the chat one area of inefficiency that you think is slowing you down, holding you back, taking up too much time. And you're like, man, if I could just, and you've thought maybe I can hire this out, I can get a software to replace this, or you don't know, but anything that's just slowing you down, holding you back. Drop that in the chat real fast. And if anyone would like to share out loud, that's great too. Trying to wear too many hats. Okay, Heidi. Specifically, like what hats are you putting on that you're like, I hate this hat. It's taking too much time.
Basically, as a business owners, especially when you're a small new business owner, I think you try to observe as much as you can instead of, delegating or hiring different people to do the different tasks. See, I take care of all the administrative side of the business. My husband, he's in charge of all the logistics and executing, all the workforce, and he's in charge of everything that goes outside. So it's just like, if you want the estimator, he wears the hat of the estimator. If if they need to talk to the manager, he's a manager. If they wanted the architect, he's the architect. And in my case, like billing, accounting, like doing all the data entries and payroll and all the different logistics that goes in the daily basics. So a lot of times, we have talked about it. How about if we hire someone that can take, some of those responsibilities? And yes, we are the owners, but we have those key people that can run the business without us have to be there.
I love that point you made, and I keep thinking about a policy manual where it's like you wouldn't be serving a new employee very well if you didn't line them up and set them up for success really well. And it becomes like your own little routine, but first you have to be the one to accept and say like, I can also make lots of money and not work really hard. I could work as hard as I want. I can work hard or I can not work hard and have the same results. It's just a matter of reframing. And I think that people who want that kind of success and ultimately to have 2 or 3 or more businesses cannot be as involved as they are in running every aspect of the business. And so it's a great goal to be able to say to yourself, again, what if I didn't have to be here Thursdays and Fridays? And how can I have things run? And I really do think it comes down to being detailed one time about each different workflow and operation that occurs and like who's really involved. And you're not going to lose any time on that. It'll always be worth your effort.
Yeah, and like as a business owner, besides the landscaping business, I also own an insurance business that it also requires a lot of my time. And so I have been kind of like dividing my roles between the landscaping business and my insurance business, where I work with a lot of business owners and I do like employee benefits and the last quarter, the end of the year. So I felt very overwhelmed and I was like, okay, I really need to um, delegate responsibilities, step out and kind of look things from outside the box. And I'm very excited.
Here's some real outside of the box thinking, right? If you sell insurance, that must mean that you have a good amount of friends. I feel like insurance people, as long as you're personable, people buy insurance, they need insurance, right? And if you realize that some of the insurance agents I know do really well because they make lots of calls, but other insurance agents I know do well because they have some notoriety. They're a little bit known. They've created some authority. And so this isn't like an online marketing course per se, but some people put the capital investment into drawing leads online, and some of them do it in person at networking events, right? And so your results may vary depending on what type of person you are. And so I still think it actually makes sense where, if you are thinking to yourself, I can't really be as social as I used to be, but I do need insurance leads to come my way, maybe more automatically. I need them to already be pre-qualified and all of that. That is the type of groundwork that's worth doing sometimes, because then you have a little bit more of an automated stream to potentially speak to customers. And of course, on the construction business side, there's so many opportunities for you to become a strong leader by helping other people take agency over responsibilities. And again, I'll quote that 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I love it. But being able to give someone else agency over responsibility is really it really shows who you are, and it really helps another person understand like what is the point here? What is it that's really we're going for? And you give that over from your mind into someone else's. That you can even potentially train teenagers to do things really well if you've given them agency properly.
We're started training our kids.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
We have three kids. The two boys, they go to the execution part of the job, and my daughter goes on the networking and
That's
building
not
those
really a scalable
relationships.
solution. You can only,
I
I don't know how many more you're gonna have.
know. No. Just to turn some humor.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I'm very happy for you. It seems like you said for several years you've been running this business, so and couldn't be happier for you. I do think that if you're ever going to sell it, like you said, you can't be winging it, as they say. You got to put it down. You know, you have to put it down. Otherwise you're going to be stuck doing. Instead of owning a business, it's like you have a job.
Yeah, that's so true. And, as a matter of fact, my husband had an accident and he has a broken ankle right now. So the good thing about that is low season, but on the other side is kind of like reflecting and okay, so you are not going to be able to be in the
Right.
business, running the business. So are you employees ready to take over? Or how much? So this is going to be a test time for us to see if they will be able to come up with the jobs.
And all of a sudden now it makes a lot more sense to be testing those kinds of things before a crisis. And
Yeah.
taking the time to zoom out and say, what's going on here? And how do I remove unnecessary parts? And how do I stop ignoring these rat's nests or problem areas or tangles that I know exist and just, stay objective, point it out, and get the help you need to find a good solution. And it pays for itself. I mean, these kind of automations really do pay for themselves as long as you do the numbers. And if you ever need help doing the numbers, we'd love to help out.
Thank you so much.
Let's see if there's more slides, Raul.
Jorge, you have a question?
Oh, there you go. Sorry.
Go ahead and
Yes.
ask about that.
Thank you so much. Can you see me or can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Jorge. I'm the owner of the small janitorial business. I am in the market more than 10 years. Thanks God, I got a job. Continue it. I don't stop it. But my concern is I never ever can get the contract directly from the front guy, from the big guys, from the always through get the contract through another companies, janitorial companies, big ones, nationwide. Of course, these guys taking the more part of the money, doing nothing, and they pay me a little bit, not really much. So I'm tired of that thing, and I wonder. I don't know. Asking for some advice. How can I get the contract directly from the big guys? I have my page in the computer. I have flyers. I don't know if it's a good idea to contract to hire a seller. Can you give me some advice?
I think you may have the answer within. And I'm going to tell you that I think that the most effective way to accomplish that is to invest in a perfect sales letter. A sales letter that's highly targeted to one individual. And that individual hopefully is the same role in several of these companies. So you have to do a little bit of research into decision makers in these companies. But there is nothing like a really well-written sales letter. And I know that people have lots of garbage on, a lot of spam coming their way every day with promises of X, Y, and Z. But if you can network into a relationship, and potentially it means hiring a person who's better at it, who's better looking maybe, or whatever it is you think will do the trick. But ultimately handing a letter over to a person who's a decision maker and saying, this is our company, we are fully capable, we know exactly what your needs are, and we are a small company, and so we're going to be really attuned to making sure we deliver perfectly. I think in certain cases, it's worth your effort to put down a really good sales letter, one that invokes and helps someone understand in detail the benefits that they have choosing you over someone else. A little bit of urgency about like, we're a small company. We'd like to book up for the year. We'd like you to be part of our program. We want to partner with you. You are the exact kind of company that we will do very well with. If you'll be exceedingly happy because we're not out of our reach here. This is something that we can handle. And I would just go into some of those principles of what they call direct response copywriting. Maybe get yourself a direct response copywriter
The
and
problem
really
is,
produce a letter that might work for you.
sorry, the interruption at this point. When I visit the different business buildings, and the only person who attended me is the front desk guy or lady, and they told me, leave your information here. I'm gonna call you back. So that's it. I never go to the next step.
Well, no,
So
that might be where you start going on LinkedIn, because people who make those decisions might have a business profile, and connecting and networking into a relationship with them at a higher level, I think, makes a difference.
oh, I see. All right, thank you so much for your advice. I wanna do a good letter. And
Yeah,
see,
even a LinkedIn direct message, a DM on LinkedIn, people read them. And another little trick is sending a direct email and having a Google document attached. But honestly, it's just a matter of the right letter to the right person,
right.
and showing how the relationship could work and why it's ultimately in their best interest for very provable reasons to get with you and get with your team. And so, if you know it's a perfect fit, you should follow that instinct. You should definitely follow that intuition and say to yourself, I'm sure this could be a really good relationship, and I'm going to give it a real shot by connecting with the exact right person and giving them a really good presentation on what could be here. And don't give up. Like that's where it's at. That's why you're a business owner, is to go for the big fish.
What do you think? Do you think it's a great idea to hire a seller?
If someone wants to sit on the phone and keep hammering on high value clients lists that you provide, that can make an impact.
They're very expensive too.
I do think that has to be a targeted list of people that really could make the decision, and they're high up enough in those companies where they have decision-making power to bring on a vendor. You can't just shotgun is not going to work.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I really
Of
appreciate it for your
course.
advice.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah, great question, Jorge. We got a couple more comments / questions. So Siobhan was asking about the learning curve for software, saying it takes too long, that she needs for her inventory. So any ideas around that?
Yeah, I would say it's more think in more declarative terms. Like, I need X information to make Y decision to make Z impact. And so what I like to do is say, and by the way, in a world of AI, you can have AI translate um, Excel data for you and just give you like a synopsis in words, if that's like more to the way you like things. But sorry, just jumped ahead there. Um, can you repeat the question now?
Yeah, ultimately just about the learning curve to for
Right.
software for integrating the tools.
Yeah, you really have to work with, if once you do this work of documenting your processes, then it comes time to building potentially software around it. It's not like you're first looking at software. You're first looking at what's going on, what actual operations exist within your system. And then you're deciding for yourself, oh, can I take these two pieces of software that exist off the shelf and pay $59 a month for each of them? And that's within the budget, and that works. And it's going to be, I'll just connect them, these two pieces of software, they're going to work well for me. And that's all I really need. That's cool. But if you do actually want to map out your own workflows and build software around it, then you're the one deciding what the screens look like. And so now you are the software designer. And I would think in those terms, and I would get a pen and a paper out and say, if the screen looked like this, and I took this action and I clicked this or I typed that, and then here's what should happen. Those are the beginnings of how we help people build the software that fits their workflow exactly. And if you're really specific about it, it goes really quickly. And once you do have a system like that in place, the minutes and the hours start freeing up, and then you end up on a beach somewhere and you don't know how.
Awesome. Similarly, an extension of that, talking about workflows, getting into that. So Becky's saying creating a better workflow for myself, so I'm doing less switching of tasks. Let me, because you've addressed sort of that, but how do you actually prioritize certain tasks? Once you have a list of all the tasks and you know, what is some of the logic behind deciding these are the important parts of my workflow that I really should be hammering?
Yeah, so we use Six Sigma project management principles in order to analyze the list of operations and find the ones that have the highest impact, which ones are mission critical. And you want to focus on actually tying back revenue numbers to each of those actions. And so we draw up an entire scenario where we can actually change some part of the workflow and see the impact in terms of percentage, and then ultimately in terms of revenue. And so it's not necessarily easy for anyone to just to do, but you do have tools nowadays where you can actually figure out how important is this task. Will an automation here actually pay for itself, or is this just something I have to live with? And I've seen companies where the last 3 days of every month they have to have low-wage employees paid overtime just to get the boxes out. We did an analysis. It was the cheapest way to go, actually, so we left it.
Awesome. And Kathleen's asking about sales and whatnot. She says, I am the only employee doing sales, onboarding, and operations. I am the bottleneck onboarding new clients. She says she hates it and drags her feet doing it. I have tried to document the process, but the logistics are getting too detailed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a real one. Those are the kind of things generally. That's first level of what we would talk about in a conversation with a new client. Um, I don't know if we have the time to answer that exact one, but ultimately, the answer is to test the waters of you not having to be the one to do every part of it. But if you do conclude that there's no one else to do it, and I am the only one who's going to do it, I'm the only one who's going to do it right, X, Y, and Z. I don't want to even talk about like perfectionism and all these things and objectivity in your business. But if you decide that you're the only one for now that can do it, then it's especially important then for you to say to yourself, I'm going to take the time each day and write it down. All of a sudden the patterns will start to develop. And in 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to know where the heaviest parts are. And then you can get some sensible advice in a short amount of time from someone who could say, maybe there's a tool for that. Maybe there's something we can build. Maybe there's a way to, once the patterns form, then we can understand and write some logic around that. So don't despair, but do imagine that when you go in there, you are a software designer, and as you're doing your work, you also are observing what's going on, as the Buddhists say, observing yourself in a sense, and then write it down and really document your own process. Like if you're ever going to sell your business, your process have to be documented. But the first, most basic benefit to it is you understand your own day better. You could potentially then impact it or start to work towards a better removing yourself and alleviating some of that stress. Yeah, I'd love a conversation on that sometime if you ever want to get a coffee.
And so, and you're referring to like writing down the process, Zvi. Are there any tools to record oneself? Like a lot of our processes now are on a computer and they're just following us like in a click here, do this. Are there any tools out there that somebody can use to just
There's some
record
lightweight
themselves?
tools. Yeah, there's some lightweight tools. I'll put one here called Miro. Uh, and then Lucid Charts is even more dynamic, where you can actually create the workflows. But Miro lets you at least write it down. The start of the day, you wake up in the morning, what time is it right now? The person in this role, like thinking about yourself, but removing yourself, thinking about it in terms of observing, the person in this role for this task that's about to occur should have knowledge of X, Y, and Z. The task to be performed is ABC. And you're treating yourself as if you're like a certain employee for that moment doing that one operation. And then you say, even if it's you again, after you perform this task, this piece or document now has to transition into the next state where someone has to edit it or review it or approve it. And if you really want to get yourself out of it, you break all those things up and you create roles and responsibilities along with these workflows, and you're just writing down what you're doing. After a couple of weeks, those patterns will emerge, and you'll say to yourself, okay, now I can imagine a system where they have the following roles that perform the following actions. And when X happens, that triggers in a series of events that kick off so that people are notified, the next person can jump in, and whatever the workflow demands, ultimately thought out all the way through to customer experience, follow-up, referral, and ambassadorship.
Awesome. So that's all the questions for now. We want to see if there's any other slides here.
Yep. I think we talked about a lot of it. I just kind of went off road here. But these all come back to the advantages that you get when you're trying to market your business by putting the work into the daily fitness of your business. Being constantly on the lookout for opportunities, because you're not so mired in the business that you can't see opportunities when they come up and see what really needs to be done and prioritize important tasks and not get swallowed up by the urgencies.
Yeah, we do have a question. Kathleen's asking, do you think a good project management application would be a good tool to use for documentation?
Some of them might be too big for you, some might be too small, and some might be the right size. And this is where it comes down again to like the right fit. But I've seen software like Monday.com, which I encourage you to check out. They have amazing workflow tools as well built in. They also have the project management. They also have the task management, and a lot of features actually that are not just the ticket management that you think it would be. Yeah, multiple tools suck. It's true. Multiple tools, though, it depends, right? What if multiple tools cost $10,000 a year, and one integrated tool like what's that marketing hub software? And it costs maybe $70,000 a year. And it's like, well, I guess I'll string together 2 or 3 pieces of software to make this happen because I don't need all of that. I only need these few operations. And so it's really just an orchestration balance of what exists out there off the shelf and what your business actually needs. Sometimes you can get away with built software. Sometimes it just makes sense for you to draw it up the way you like it and the way you know you need it. That's the most scalable way. As you change, as your business grows, your system can grow with you. And if it's proprietary and it's just what runs your own business and it's contained and it's thought out and you keep building on it, as much automation as possible, then when you do sell your business, imagine how valuable that particular asset is. Thank you, Luke. Okay, what's motion? Kathleen asked.
I think
Kathleen
it's
mentioned.
like Monday, but I looked at Monday some years ago and it was just too damned expensive. So motions, project management, task management, teams, you can work in a team with it.
Interesting. For a lot of my experiences in Jira using the Agile methodology, I don't know if a lot of people here are familiar with it, but it's 2-week delivery sprints. And it's pretty interesting because it's really organic. It deals with the current facts and the current situation, and it moves on from there. It doesn't go backwards and say, why is this not this way or that? It's just taking the current state and keeping objective. And it's probably the most common way software is built these days.
I find you can spend a lifetime just finding the best software, and
That's
then
why
2
you
years
sometimes
later,
close the browser and just write your own.
and they
At least
always
try it out.
improve, and new ones come out, and it's mind-boggling.
I think the new ones are very interesting, but I honestly, with a little bit of sprinkle a little bit of AI and your own custom structures and workflows, you can get pretty far now. Like you can even have it reporting out daily to you automatically. There's so much power, but the other thing is there's so much overcomplication. Every layer of complication actually is risk. And so right now we worked with Colorado.gov to manage their primary system that manages the website, working with a couple of government agencies right now, including education department. And so the tools that we built are really specific to the workflows that are defined. And that's maybe the most impressive part. As much as the government is slow and works in committees, the requirement to have everything documented, the workflows that are actually going on every day so that people can jump in and do their tasks with as little bit of help as possible. Those are the things we're talking about here in a similar way. We can have very complex roles and permissions so that just the right person can open up the document and do what they need to do and close it up with full accountability. And also transitioning states and moving things from one place to another so that things actually get done. And you as a business owner, you just get to see the stream. You get to see things actually getting done in those kind of metrics. And so each person needs to have the visibility they need and the permissions and controls they need to perform their tasks. And in a lot of cases, this kind of custom open source software can make a difference in a business. Help a business shine and save a lot of money. Thank you so much.
I think that's we'll close it out. Zvi, that was an awesome overview of this idea of building your business in a way that eliminates inefficiencies, right? And so now you're all got the mindset, hopefully, of what to start looking for. Like, I think the big takeaway for me is document your processes, document everything you're doing. Yes, that's annoying. Yes, that's a lot of extra work. But if you have even just that, you're increasing the value because now you have a manual that can go to the next person. And whether that's an employee, a new business owner that takes over, buys it from you, at least you have some information there that's highly valuable. Ideally, you take that, you actually build something with that where you start to streamline the efficiency of your business and take yourself out of those roles. That's my big takeaways there. So Zvi, do you want any last words from you?
No, Raul, I think you explained it so well. I really appreciate everyone's time today, Raul. I'm so happy you hold these things. And I hope this was valuable to you. I tried to put a lot of work into making sure that you have what you need. If you need any kind of supporting documents, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you, Zvi. And so you see Zvi's contact information. I will be sending a copy of the recording and the presentation to you all. And I also dropped links for free advising from the SBDC. So if you are looking for any general business help, that's a great place to start as well. And we'll be here on the next webinar and help you out there. So don't hesitate to reach out to Zvi, and you all have a good one.